Hello, everybody. Buddy Webb, Midland, Texas. Little video I'm going to do this morning. I've talked about this before, but I think it's real important. And here's a question I asked on my Facebook yesterday, and that's the basis of this video. There's about a dozen people that are documented saying Hailey Dunn, that was a 13-year-old missing, famous missing murdered child from Colorado City, Texas. Cheerleader went missing in 2010. But anyways, they're saying Hailey Dunn was killed in Odessa. So why hasn't any child killers been arrested? Okay. So I mean, and so there was a, my opening Facebook post. My next comment here says, I believe the real reason is because they're trying to keep this secret. And I put this picture up here. And what I'm showing here is this is using Google Maps, and you can do it yourself. You just go to maps.google.com, put in my address, 3802 Fair Circle, Midland, Texas, and then you just look, from the map screen over to the satellite screen, and look at my backyard, and you'll see that there's a large bunker there, facility that can't be seen from above ground. Okay, and so you can do that yourself, and you can see that, and it's believed that is where one of the four 3-bedroom underground homes that cost over $1 million a piece is, and where the oil show parties were going on, where that young girl was murdered at the 2010 oil show that my friend Angie Magia Hurley told me about, and that these underground homes are connected with the murder of the last homeowner who died the week before the 2008 oil show started. And then when I was ambushed and shot by somebody under my home with burglar alarms going off in the attic. And now there's all kinds of people all over Midland, Odessa, Texas, other places reporting people in the attic. Multiple people saying that these underground homes are here. And one of them was a recent candidate for sheriff that said our last sheriff, Gary Painter, used to hang out down there. That was another recording. And so that's what all this tells you down here. And then there was Layla O'Brien here. She said she worked on this underground project. They had a budget of $7.35 million. They called it Safe Houses, okay? And it was finished in 1987, and she believed the Bushes were connected to that. Midland is the hometown of the Bushes. So I believe that the reason that no arrests have been made in this famous missing murdered child case, Hailey Dunn, is because of these $1 million underground facilities and the underground parties, the oil show parties, and the forced prostitution murder of that little girl. Keep in mind, Angie told me that in 2010. In 2013, the remains of a little girl was found outside of Midland, 14 to 21 years old, suspected of homicide. And there's a Crime Stoppers on that right now, okay? And there's a reason I think that Hailey is connected to that, okay? And so right off the bat here, Linda, she comments, and she says, it's my understanding that she was killed near the boyfriend's mom's home, close to Colorado City. I may be wrong. And of course, that there's been a lot of misinformation and put out about this. And I think certain people are on purpose trying to spread misinformation and cover up these crimes. But she was found in Scurry County, and that's what she's talking about, is that's where her remains were found. And we're going to talk more about that here in a minute, okay? And then so I replied, and I said, multiple people are documented saying that Hailey was killed in Odessa, okay, which is Ector County, okay? She was found in Scurry County, and that includes Sonia Renee Callahan. She described to me the moment that Hailey died on this phone call that I was secretly recording, okay? So what we're talking about Sonia Renee Callahan. First, News West 9, there's News West 9, did an article in 2012. Sister jailed woman claiming Hailey Dunn was drugged to death speaks to News West 9, okay? And said here, she says that, here's a picture of Hailey, that Hailey was killed in a home that she was at in Odessa. And that's what I'm saying. It's in Sonia Callahan wrote a letter from an Odessa jail claiming she saw a young girl who matched Dunn's description. In the letter, she claims the girl was held against her will and drugged in an Odessa home. She wrote that the girl eventually died of an overdose, okay? And then it was collateral for a drug deal debt that the team's family owned. Okay, so that you can go look that up. That's an old News West 9 news story. But I was creating these videos, and Sonia Renee Callahan called me, and I secretly record her. So she's the one that was quoted by News West 9 in 2012, and this is in 2016. And her story didn't change in them 4 years. I want you to listen to this. This is Sonia talking to me on the phone.
Hello, buddy.
Yes.
How are you?
Oh, pretty good. Is this Renee?
Yes, it is, sir.
Okay.
How are you doing?
Oh,
That's good.
I'm doing pretty good. I was just waiting on your call. Your sister told me that you were going to call, and so...
Yes. You know, this has been a hell of a thing with this issue, you know what I'm saying? It's been a rough one.
Yeah, I mean, I really can't even imagine,
You know, I was there at the house, and I seen her, you know, my heart just went down to the floor. What do I do? Either respond in her life or mine.
There we go. And so her story didn't change, you know, and she's describing the moment that this little girl was murdered, right? Little 13-year-old kid was murdered. And she says, you know, it was either mine in her life or it was just hers, you know. So, and then I'm going to go on. This is the same video to the end of it. And she calls out names of people. So, I mean, you know, it's...
K-R-O-F-T, David Allison, K-C-F-R-A-C, no, F-R-A-C-E-E, Kevin Rickman, Dusty Braddick, David Parker, Brooke, Letty, and Billy Phelps.
Now, I'm not familiar with them names, but I will tell you...
Okay, so here, you know, I secretly recorded Sonia Renee Callahan, whose story hadn't changed in 4 years, and she's naming the people that were involved, okay? So that there's some evidence that law enforcement, you know, should be following up on. And then let me get back to my Facebook post. On this phone call, this is my next comment. Allison is naming the people who kidnapped Hailey over in Colorado City and took her to Odessa. There are many details on this phone call, which is clearly what happened. It was real easy to see. So this is another YouTube video called Another Tell Why, Where, and Mostly Who. And it's not even my video. It was somebody else's, my phone call. It was, I got it from Blog Talk Radio. You can see it was uploaded to Blog Talk Radio. And so we're just going to play a clip of it here from Allison here. Now, Birdie is Kevin Rickman. That's the same one Sonia Renee Callahan called out on that phone call.
What is plastic's real name? What is plastic's real name, Allison?
Dusty Braddick.
Yeah, Dusty Braddick.
I want you to get a pen and paper, and I want you to write the things down that I'm getting ready to tell you.
Because do you know that whenever a phone call comes in, it's recorded, so I can go back and listen to everything you say, baby.
Okay. Listen, it's Dustin Braddick, Joe Cross, Kevin Rickman, who else?
Y'all. Who?
David Allison.
David Allison. Who?
David Parker.
David Parker.
I'm trying to remember the house because...
And so that was Allison calling out names, and most of them names are the same exact names that was called out from Sonia on that secretly recorded phone call. I'm going to let you listen to another part of this same video. Y'all can go listen to the whole thing, but I thought this was interesting.
I think the police are trying to figure out where else the body was found.
The body was also at Jackie Thompson's backyard.
Who is Jackie
I don't
Thompson?
know what Jackie Thompson was a police officer in arrested a few years back on dope charges.
Okay, she's saying a police officer, that's a former Odessa police officer, was where Hailey's body was buried for a while over in Odessa. And so I thought that was real interesting myself, and maybe explain some of this cover-up going on. This next comment here, her body was found in Scurry County close to the boyfriend's mom's house. Not sure where she was murdered. Okay. And this is Linda here. And of course, she's going on what what's been put in the press, because the press haven't told you that there's a dozen people saying that Odessa, that Hailey was killed in Odessa, or that she was buried in the backyard of an Odessa police officer, or any of that, and they have hidden these crimes from the public, or hidden the evidence from this murder of this little girl, just like they've hidden the crimes against me, And so here I reply, I said she was found by Curtis Lloyd on March 16, 2013, and I sent the Department of Justice that email on March 14th. Interestingly, I was doing research on the many homes where people had been reporting somebody in the attic, which is what I reported before, during, and after I was ambushed and shot. I noticed that the next door neighbor, the home at 2505 Dartmouth, where people reported in the attic, was owned by Curtis's parents. The next door neighbor was. And I wondered if a tunnel went from there to the victim's house. I'm guessing that Curtis was chosen to find her remains to keep the underground homes parties here secret. Okay. And so that's what I'm explaining here. And I'm going to show you here that Curtis Lloyd found the remains of Hailey on March 16th, and on March 14th, I'd sent the Department of Justice a email suggesting they'd look in the underground homes here. And interesting, I later noticed that the next door neighbor of one of the homes, the many homes where people have been reported in the attic, one of them was on my roofer, told me about this one on Dartmouth. And I'm going to show you here, this is a video I got here called Attic Investigation 2505 Dartmouth, Monty Gist right here, and we're just going to play it.
Started, okay? And so I looked at this neighbor here. This guy works for an oil company, Landon Graham. I Googled him, and he lives at 2507. And then I looked at this one, Terry Lloyd lived at 2503. And that's where it got interesting right there, is because when I found that obituary, and I'm going to show you here in a minute, from Marty Lloyd, okay? And obituaries are a great place to find information. She died in 2010, rest in peace, Marty Lloyd. And I find out she was married to Terry Lloyd in Midland. Well, Terry Lloyd lives at 2503 Dartmouth, I'd already found that. And then her son was Curtis Lloyd, and he lived in Big Springs. And it was a Curtis Lloyd in Big Springs that found Hailey Dunn, okay? So
what a coinky-dinky, ain't it? And maybe Curtis Lloyd grew up in a home next door to where somebody is being reported in the attic. And 2 days after I wrote the Department of Justice, suggested somebody come here and look in these underground homes for clues in the disappearance of Hailey Dunn, Curtis Lloyd just happens to go find her remains in Scurry County, and a dozen people are documented saying Hailey was killed over in Odessa, Ector County. Okay, and so here I want to show you just another clip from the same video. This is from one of the news channels.
It's something he'll never forget. Curtis Lloyd found the remains that would ultimately be identified as Hailey Dunn.
2 days after I sent that email to the Department of Justice suggesting they come here to Midland, they look in these underground homes here that multiple people are documented as saying is here. Okay. Here's the next comment, okay? So how would the famous missing murdered 13-year-old Hailey Dunn be connected to the $4 million underground homes in Midland, Texas, where they're having pedophile parties that many people have said were here, including recent candidate for sheriff Joe Lozano? Okay. He told me on a recorded call that our last sheriff, Gary Painter, used to hang out down there. I think it makes sense that all of the strippers in the area were to work at the famous and wild after-hours parties during the 2010 Permian Basin International Oil Show, along with other non-strippers such as my friend Angie Magia Hurley. Angie was the one who told me about a young girl that was murdered at one of those parties when she refused to prostitute, but this wasn't Hailey, as that was 2 months before Hailey was reported missing. This was sex trafficking and was significant public corruption, allowing it. Then how could they turn? Who could they turn to for help? That's what I'm saying. Who do you call? Do you call News West 9, CBS 7, KMID? They're hiding the truth and hide the secret police. They're hiding all these homeowners reporting people in the attic. They're hiding the crimes here. Who is that little girl going to call? Is she going to call the police, the sheriff? The sheriff that was at the party? That's what we're thinking, And anyway, they were given a choice, okay, these crime victims, the sex trafficking victims at the oil show parties. And it was do it or die, you know. And nobody should try and point fingers of shame at those crime victims, because I'm sure there was other ones there that decided that they didn't want to be murdered. They didn't want to wake up dead like that little girl, you know. And who were they going to call? That's the problem, is the public corruption around here. Our press and some corrupt police. And of course, not all of the police are dirty, but the ones that are involved in murders got to be held accountable. Okay. This would mean the same people that ordered Angie to work, who also ordered Hailey's mom, Billy Dunn, to work. And why would be that? Because she was a stripper. Multiple people told me that Billy was a stripper around this time, and one moment told me that she was taking Hailey to the strip clubs with her. If she took Hailey to the strip clubs, then it makes sense she took her to the underground oil show parties too, right? That would put her in my backyard in October 2010, 2 months before she went missing. Back in October 2010, Hailey wasn't the nationally famous missing murdered child, but just the daughter of a local stripper. And I feel sure that many other people at those famous parties don't want anybody to find out that Hailey was there with them. Doesn't that make sense? I mean, imagine these parties are international oil show parties, wealthy oil company owners, you know. And, you know, and I don't know which companies, but think of some of the huge companies, ConocoPhillips, Mobil, Exxon, Halliburton, you know, and I ain't saying they're Pioneer, you know, the first owner of my home, he worked for Pioneer, you know. A guy around the corner works for Concho, you know, and that's where another, you know, suspected underground home might be. Anyways, you know, that might be some of the oil companies. I had tried to get Angie to report the murder of the young girl, but she was afraid and told me that high-level police were there, also at that party. I couldn't understand at the time. Now it's real clear. You know, this just blatant in-your-face corruption going after the innocent crime victims is just, you know, it can't be accepted. It's nuts what's going on here. Obviously, one of those was the late Sheriff Painter, Gary Painter. Joe Lozano said the underground homes was the hideout for Painter. I secretly recorded him saying it. That guy was running for sheriff. This is why I think nobody has been arrested in the Hailey Dunn murder. The suspected murder of Michael Ahan, the previous owner of my home that died the week before the 2008 oil show started. The capital attempted murder of my life, where I'm shot during a home invasion, or the criminals that are rigging private homes across America for burglary, theft, and murder. And there's homeowners all over the place, all over Midland, Odessa, reporting people in that same thing I reported when I was ambushed and shot. And then, they tried to kill me, but now I'm crippled for life. It would also make sense that some multi-billion-dollar oil companies had employees there, and they don't want the public to find out. You know, and that's where I showed Homeland Security last year, where I believe that the tunnel was coming from the back of Home Depot over here. 2 weeks later, they dug up the ground. They poured concrete, right? And then 3 months later, the Secretary of Homeland resigns. Okay, ain't that interesting? 6 days after that, the Secretary of Energy resigns. Rick Perry, former governor of Texas. And what do you want to bet? Some of these major oil companies might have some communications with the Secretary of Energy, oil company, Secretary of Energy. You see how that works? And they don't want the public to find out the truth about what's going on in these underground facilities, forced prostitution, murder of little girls, and maybe Hailey Dunn, famous missing murdered child, was there with them. Okay, here's some print screens that I got. Mikhail Morales, he writes me and he says, I was told that she was pimped out to her father's oilfield friends. I was told that the father would get up to $500. That would be Clint Dunn. And interesting, Clint Dunn has just tried, it seems to me, has tried to discredit me and the dozen people documented, or around a dozen people documented, saying Hailey was killed in Odessa. I've actually thought that Clint and his PI were purposely trying to spread misinformation about the murder of Hailey, you know, because that's just too many people to try to discredit, you know. And then says I was even told that she'd take it upon herself to make money without her father. So I've wondered, the questions asked, maybe Clint was at the oil show parties and that's where she was being pimped out to his friends, you know. I've wondered that. And then here, Janice Freeman Driver, she says, now, buddy, I heard that Billy was from a very reliable source that Hailey was going with her as well, but staying in the dressing room while Billy Dunn, worked the pole, the stripper pole. So that's where I learned that Billy was a stripper in the area, and it makes sense. All the strippers were ordered to work the oil show parties. They're big deals in this area, big money makers, you know. And if she's taking Hailey to the strip club, then it makes sense she took her to the oil show parties, okay? And then here, this is another one. This is for the admin for the Hope for Hailey Dunn, and it's Billy Dunn's friend Stacy, and she's confirming that Billy was, a stripper, but she's angry about it. Keep in mind, while she was stripping, it was a third job because Clinton didn't work. She's a nurse. She was doing secretarial work and stripping. Okay, and I'm not pointing fingers because I got a feeling that Billy Dunn wasn't asked to work at them oil show parties, that she was ordered to under the threat of death, just like that little girl that was murdered and all the rest of them there. Keep that in mind. Let's don't be, let's keep that in mind there about Billy and everybody else that was ordered to work. The problem is this public corruption and the press, and they don't have anybody to go to when they're going, you're going to prostitute or we're going to kill you, and who are you going to call? Literally, what are you going to do? So here's Linda again. Wow, buddy, you could be right. I never knew about any of this. I've always wondered why they never arrested anyone for Hailey's murder. And then she goes on, I love Sheriff Painter. I hope this is not true. And then Linda says, thank you for taking my mind off the election. Here, and I reply. And I said, I think there are many murders connected with them, which is underground facilities, as the young last homeowner of my home, Mike Lon, died the week before the 2008 oil show started. I believe he was murdered here, taken to Fort Worth. After I survived the murder attempt in 2012, I sent the DOJ an email suggesting they send somebody to look in the underground homes for clues in the disappearance of Hailey, and 2 days later, her remains were found in Scurry County. That's what I've been saying. She'd been missing for 2 years, and as soon as I suggest they look here, poof. Okay, so it's one thing for Buddy to say I sent an email to the Department of Justice, but a whole different thing when I show you the email. There it is, 3/14/13, 2 days before her remains are found by Curtis Lloyd, right? The next door neighbor, somebody's reporting people in the attic, or a former. And in my email to the Department of Justice, maybe she's being held by these slavers below my home right now. Hailey Dunn. I have overwhelming evidence to support the allegations of underground facility. And isn't that, coincidental? That's what that is. 2 days later, and all of a sudden, boom, don't gotta go look at Buddy's house. They found her. Okay. Don't forget a dozen people saying she's killed over in Odessa. And Linda, again, I didn't know about the murder attempt on you. And I said, and once again, it is strange that you sent the email her body was found. Lots of corruption going on that we never know about. She's talking about the timing, the 2 days afterwards. Okay. And then here we go again. I said, after reporting multiple burglaries of my home in Midland, I called the El Paso DEA and then the Midland DEA and reported a suspected tunnel, but they didn't look. And 2 weeks later, I was ambushed and shot by somebody under my home with burglar alarms going off in the attic. God saved my life. Based on recent evidence found, it looks like it may have been some police under my home that shot me, and it makes sense they were the same ones at the oil show parties where the young girl was murdered, and it's suspected that Billy and Hailey were at. This video will show what happened when I shot. And so that video is called During the Commission of Felony because it looks like a burglar was trapped in my guest bathroom. I had been reporting multiple burglars in my house. So I was shot during the commission of a felony, a burglary. And that's what's been going on. They're rigging homes for the burglary, theft, and murder. And not just my home, but many other homes. In 2019, 7 years after I survived this murder attempt, God saved my life, I finally got the police report that had been illegally withheld from me. It's clear now why they were hiding the police report illegally is because it showed 5 police officers were at or in my home and they wasn't seen arriving on the security cameras that saw Woodward and Naylor arriving. Okay, and so you look here, here's Matt Davis, Tony Dickey, Matt Davis. And Matt Davis, I got a message, I did a video about this recently. He wrote on my YouTube, or Matthew Davis wrote on my YouTube, I stole the evidence, buddy, and nobody will ever find out. Admitted to stealing evidence to cover up a premeditated home invasion and capital attempted murder. Okay, but the big thing here is Dickey, Lieutenant Dickey at 11:05, he's stating to the dispatcher, no one's in the house inside, and lots of things like booby traps. There's no booby traps in evidence, by the way, but the important thing is that Dickey wasn't seen arriving on the security cameras, but he's inside my house at 11:05. Woodward and Naylor was seen on camera at 11:01, 4 minutes earlier, and Dickey was not seen arriving on camera. What that told me is they were under my home. They had came in the trap door the ex-wife had already told me about, and from where the evidence shows that I was shot from. it looks like it might have been police that tried to murder me in my home. And if that's the case, then I would say they would be the top suspects for the murder of that little girl at the 2010 oil show party. And then the suspected murder of Mike Lawhon, the previous homeowner of my home, died the week before the 2008 oil show started. Okay. And so we have plenty of leads that could be worked by legitimate law enforcement. Okay. My next comment. This video will show you the many people documenting saying Hailey was killed in Odessa, but her remains were found in Scurry County 2 days after I suggested that somebody look in the underground homes here. It looks like she was dug up and moved as a result of my email, and Curtis was chosen to go find her. So I'm showing you clips from another video, and this is the Hailey Dunn timeline, and it's like this happened on this day, this happened on this day, this happened. And this is what the press is not telling the public. You know, that's what this should be national headline news. Here is a message I got from a drug rehab counselor that told me she got the confession for Hailey Dunn from a guy named Brett Bushman, and she sent me this.
He come to me and he was crying.
She sent me this message on Facebook. She said the guy, Brett Bushman, said they traded her for a drug balance of $135 worth of meth. While she was in the care of the dealer, she flipped out and they shot her up with something. She overdosed and died. The guy who confessed to me said he took her back to her mother and they stuffed her into a box. He described the way they had to bend her and break her to fit. They then buried her on a ranch outside of Odessa. Okay, and playing on top of that is another person I secretly recorded. I want you to listen.
And he told me, he said, I'm going to get that son of a bitch. And he's speaking of Matt's name. He wouldn't have told me this if it wasn't the truth.
And this person here, I've never named her, but she also named many of them same names that was named by Sonia Renee Callahan, who said she was actually witnessed the murder of Hailey, and then also by Allison that was recorded on a phone call naming them names. And once again, it was the same names. My understanding, it was the Samaritan Brotherhood people over in Odessa. And I've also been told by certain people that the Aryan Brotherhood isn't as an organization, or they don't support the rape and murder of children, and I think it was Allison told me if certain people found out what they did to that little girl, there would heads be rolled within their own gang because they don't support raping and murdering children. The Aryan Brotherhood don't, and maybe that's what's kept me alive, for speaking out about the murder of this child here, is that people in the Aryan Brotherhood are not okay with the rape and murder of children, and that's what we're talking about here. And so I'm gonna go back here. Linda's like, wow, and here's this. Thank you for the info. I've always been obsessed with this case, and here the drug rehab counselor Hailey Dunn. This is, I spoke briefly about it a second ago. I'm gonna go here with another video.
The print screens. There's the one that was on. I showed you that's on YouTube.
That's the one on YouTube that Christy Ott's drug rehab counselor said she got the confession from Brett. This is the one I read to you a minute ago.
That one there, I read that to you, and this was the.
And this is a resignation letter Christy took a picture of and sent to me, to her supervisors, Julie Elliott and Janie Tippett and Ramona Thomas. And she's saying in here, I'm going to show you here.
Resignation email there to her.
I've never stated I was afraid of BB, Brett Bushman. Since he did have his hand stuffing a child's body in a safe. Now, keep in mind, this is a letter. This is a letter to her supervisors. His confession of the involvement of 3 different homicides. That's what that says right there. And organizational affiliation. What that means, organizational affiliation, means gang membership. Aryan Brotherhood or other gangs, but in this case it's it's Aryan Brotherhood. So there's that video, and because part of this is what I'm saying is multiple people are documented saying Hailey was killed in Odessa, except her remains are found in Scurry County, and then here Hailey Dunn killed over a family drug debt, and I think that was the one we did listen to there. I got them out of a line, and so this one here, Hailey Dunn timeline, we'll do it because I got them out of order. But Brandy Dunn tells me that the murder of Hailey's connected with murder of Cody Mercer. They said they were filmed, and the cops said the film. She also said it was in Odessa and at Brooke Owensby's house. I said, they have a video? Yes, and the cops have it. Video of Cody Mercer's murder and of Hailey Dunn's murder. And then another person confirmed that a video was made. January 5th, 2018, Jessica Lee Hadley tells me that she saw the murder videos and described them as disgusting. This confirmed what Brandy told me, that there was videos that the cops have, you know, and that's what I'm showing here. And she's going, yeah, a boy named Cody was abducted, tied up, beaten, savagely raped, and belonged to a certain gang in Odessa. And I wonder if he ain't one of them 3 homicides that Christy talked about, was Cody Mercer, okay? And she goes on, she says, the fact knowing that there's a ring of pedophiles that actually run and maintain in Odessa and Texas, it's unbelievable, okay? And you sound like you're talking about Cody Mercer, and I'm talking, and this woman named Brandy Dunn, which I just showed you, said that the same people who murdered Hailey also killed Cody, and the cops had the film, and she confirmed it. Yes, that is correct. They videotaped the whole thing. It is disgusting, and it's absolutely true. Okay, and so once again, I'm gonna go back to where I started from. A dozen people are documenting saying Hailey Dunn was killed in Odessa, so why isn't any child killers arrested? You know, we need to start thinking about that. And the other questions they ask, I wonder how many other little kids they murdered, or how many they will before we'll finally get arrested. It's time to stop the lawlessness here.